Let's talk some Tennessee recruiting because the Volunteers, they're trending for the number one athlete in America, Joel Wyatt, and he was back in Knoxville this weekend. Got Matt Ray here from VolQuest. Matt, what's the deal with Joel Wyatt? Predictions rolling in. Tennessee at nearly 98% on the recruiting prediction machine. Was there a sense that maybe Tennessee could close it out this weekend?
Yeah, Josh, I mean, and catching up with Joel Wyatt, obviously there's a certain comfort level in Knoxville. Now, he did kind of say toward the end of the interview that Tennessee's in the top two for him right now. He's not comfortable saying who the second school in the mix is, but he's working to finalize some official visit dates. And, it's very clear, though, regardless of all that, all the official visits going on, and Tennessee's continued to do a really nice job of recruiting him, recruiting his family. He had family with him again on this visit. This is his second time back in
Mm-hmm.
Knoxville in this calendar year already. He was here at the end of January, back here at the end of March. Tennessee will look to get him back again potentially over the spring before official visit. So Tennessee just continues to do a really nice job of recruiting him. And he did say, that the message from the Tennessee staff has kind of been, what are you waiting on? Let's get in here. Let's start recruiting some guys. And we'll see how appealing that is to him as he goes home. He's been on the road in the spring. He's got some things to think about. He's got some official visits. He says that he still has to iron out. So how far does he want to take this process? It's very clear that Tennessee's in a very good spot for him coming out of the spring, and that's all because of the relationship he and his family have with the Tennessee staff.
He didn't want to say who that second team is. Who do you think it is?
I think that's a very interesting. I think that's a very interesting with him because he's been to Vanderbilt a lot, and he was there just before coming out to Tennessee. And I'm not ready to say that it's Vanderbilt, but I do think Vanderbilt is very much in the mix. The other school that has an official visit date locked in place already is LSU, and right now, obviously, you can't count the Tigers out of any recruitment. Georgia and North Carolina are two other programs that are set to get an official visit, but he doesn't have a date locked in with
Hmm.
them. So right now, I would say probably battling to be in that top two with Tennessee is Vanderbilt or LSU. But I do think Vanderbilt's kind of real. I mean, I think when you look at the list and you look at North Carolina with the new staff there with Bill Belichick, and then obviously Kirby Smart and the track record that his staff has there in Georgia and LSU, when you see Vanderbilt grouped in, you might just think, oh, that's a courtesy deal. I don't think it is. I think Vanderbilt is very real in the mix for Joel White, and I think they've recruited him hard, and I think he's continuing to take a deep look at them. So I think Vanderbilt and LSU are the two teams probably that are Tennessee's primary competition at this point.
All right, another really intriguing name that was on campus is USC commitment Xavier Griffin, ranked as the number two rated linebacker in America. We know that Tennessee was involved with a bunch of these Georgia linebackers last cycle. How are they sitting with Griffin? Do you think he's a legitimate flip target at this point?
It's Austin and I were talking about this yesterday as things kind of wrapped up, and I think for me with Tennessee and Xavier Griffin, it's where we were at this point last year with Jaden Perlotti. Now, obviously, Jaden Perlotti flipped to USC before ending up flipping back to Tennessee, away from
Yeah,
Georgia. But I think you've got to continue getting him to campus. Xavier
right.
Griffin was quietly up in Knoxville in November. He's been pretty open that he's going to continue to take visits. He's back in Knoxville this spring. So now you've got a track record of getting him here. You have to keep getting him back to campus, and you've got to get an official visit at some point down the line to be able to allow him to learn more about the program, give him that in-depth look where you can, make him a true potential flip target. But from everything I've gathered, it's a visit that went very well. He had, family members along on the visit with him. Some of their first time seeing Knoxville. I think the football fit has always lined up with him at Tennessee, but I think it lines up with him at a lot of places. And the more, that I continue to check around and talk to people that are, in the know in this recruitment, he's very open in the fact that he is not concerned over distance. He's not
Mm-hmm.
concerned about leaving Gainesville, Georgia, and going out to the West Coast. He committed to USC. It wasn't, one of those deals where he felt pressured into committing to USC. He comfortably committed to USC, and Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, all these other programs are going to continue vying to keep him in the Southeast. But there's work to do there, and I think that can
Yeah.
be said for all of those programs, and I think it can be said for Tennessee. So I think for me, you just got to keep getting him back to campus. But from everything I've gathered, Saturday's visit went very well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is one that's not going to be over until the very end, and this is kind of just the beginning. But it was key to get him on campus if Tennessee is going to be a threat moving forward. Speaking of being a threat moving forward, intriguing edge position name, Tristan Givens here. He's out of Georgia as well, Carver, Georgia. And he was on campus this weekend. He's a top 100 prospect, top 10 at his position. Where does Tennessee stand with him? Inside Scoop listeners, I got to tell you about a company that makes this show possible. It's Rhoback Activewear. The only way to describe Rhoback is best fit, best feel. And for those who are not familiar with Rhoback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Rhoback has released so many items within their new licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs, clean hoodie, and quarter zip designs from some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else in the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Rhoback's everyday shorts or their Delta Performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They are both super comfortable. They have an elastic waistband and a great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for everyday movement. Rhoback also has been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. So use code JOSH on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off all new custom orders through the end of this week. Let's spell it out for you. RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with promo code JOSH.
Yeah, he's a guy that Tennessee's recruited hard for some time now. He's hit it off with new outside linebackers coach LaVorn Harbin, well into the early days of this recruitment, and that has just continued to carry over. And he said yesterday that relationship has continued to build. He feels like Tennessee's making him a priority. He had family along with him on the visit. Really enjoyed what he saw on the practice field from Tennessee. He was impressed when he was here in November for the Kentucky game and got to see what James Pierce and the Tennessee edge rushers, that Leo position, did. He got a deeper look at that on Saturday, and the message has been clear that they can use him in a way that truly fits what he does well as a player, and he's starting to see more and more of that. Tennessee's done a really nice job of recruiting him over the winter and into the spring as his recruitment continues to surge. He's fixing to be off the road for a little bit. He will see Florida State to kind of close out his spring tour of visits here and then start focusing on official visits. And to me right now, it feels like those two programs are the two that have maybe created a little bit of separation coming out of the winter as they're working hard to recruit Tristan Givens at that edge position. And, I think for me, that one's going to be one that comes down to official visits.
Yeah. It seems like Tennessee kind of has it dialed in right now at the edge position. Is this board, how big of a priority is the edge position, and is the board loaded right now for Tennessee?
It certainly feels like it's very loaded at that position. I think what you'll see is you'll have some guys that can grow into a more traditional defensive end, play with their hand in the dirt a little bit more. But when you just start looking at guys that can play edge or play out at the end of the line of scrimmage, there's so many guys. I mean, you'll see Dre Quinn back on campus next weekend, another 4-star edge guy. You had Tristan Givens here. Mikael Blade quietly came to town. He's a guy that would probably, grow into a defensive end, but he's working to get an official visit scheduled after, seeing Tennessee yesterday. That was not something that was in the works before. There's just so many guys at that edge position this time, and they already have C.J. Edwards committed. They're working, on several other guys. I mean, Carter Meadows. They're not going to quit recruiting Rodney Dunham. He's a priority for them. There's just so many names that they're involved with in this cycle, and it's just one of those years where that position is very heavy. I feel like from top to bottom, there's some guys that maybe even are a little lower rated right now that have a ton of upside that Tennessee views pretty highly.
All right, Tennessee fans, do me a favor right now. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel, and also let us know Is Xavier Griffin going to be the next big flip at the linebacker position? Talk to us, comment section below.